Aaron Ann, you're muted.
Okay, good. That was probably better. Just said that I was getting the recording started, trying to respect everyone's time. This recording will be available. Hopefully, those of you who weren't here last time were able to review the recording from last time, because we're not going to be going over everything again, though if anyone has any questions, we certainly can circle back to anything that we have. There's a little bit of changes since last time that I do want to go over, and there's always going to be a few of those. But as I said, this meeting is going to be actually a little bit of hands-on for those of you who haven't done this before, so that you can get some experience working with the spreadsheets. Now, I didn't do this with the last teller training, so this is somewhat experimental. So hopefully this will work out. But something I want to show you guys is we do have more of a floor plan now, and it's changed a little bit from what we discussed last time. So I want to get that up on my screen. And those of you who received the email that I did want to talk about slightly, that I talked about in the delegation chair training, but first let me get up. You should be seeing a diagram on your screen. You may have received an email that talked about delegations for a fundraiser bidding for the spot that they want. Because we're libertarians, there are some people upset about that, as there will be when you have libertarians. Just so everyone knows, in the past, the way delegations were seated was completely at the whim of the Credentials Oversight Committee. And tradition had tended to be, it didn't really work out in Reno because Reno was kind of a terrible room. But in the nicer venues is that the larger delegations usually sat up front. If you were in Orlando in 2016, you may remember Texas, California, they were Florida, they were all up front. That's the way it typically is. Some of the complaints that we've heard is, oh, but by bidding for a seat, it's not your delegation seat, it's where your delegation gets sat. If there's a certain spot you guys want, that it privileges the larger delegations because they might have more donors. Well, the larger delegations were already privileged. This, in fact, gives a chance for, say, Montana to be up front if that's where they want. And to assume everyone wants to be up front is also not necessarily a good assumption. I'm not going to say the state, but if they're here, they can out themselves if they're here. But for instance, I don't know if you can see my cursor, that little thing over here to the far left, that's going to be a bar that's inside the convention hall. There's already a delegation that wants to sit right by those steps right there so that they can get drinks easily. And that's over to the far left. So not everyone wants to be up front. There are some delegations with a lot of people that are working on presidential campaign teams that would prefer to be towards the back, so that they could have easy access to get out and work tables and things like that. And then, of course, there are people who would like to be right up front. And these red dots are where the microphones are. And some people would like to be by the microphones. I do see your hand, Mike. I'm going to get to you in a moment. But first, I just want to explain what everyone's seeing on the screen. So all those rows on the
You might
bottom,
answer
that's...
the question away. So
I'm sorry?
you might answer my question
Oh,
along the
okay.
way. So
So all those rows you see along the bottom, that's the delegate seating. Only delegates or convention officials will be allowed on the floor. The Credentials Committee has decided they are using delegate buttons because they're easily transferable from a delegate to somebody who's subbing in for them, rather than ribbons, which you can't really take off easy. Now, we are still going to have name badge ribbons and caucuses and the like. I'm sure we'll pass out ribbons, but the delegate credentials is going to be a button, which is reviving something that the party used to do a long time ago. These rounds you see on the top, this is that upper level I told you about. Something that did change is after schematicking, or whatever you want to call it, this out with the hotel, the teller tables are not on the main floor. The head teller tables that's right there, kind of to the left. I don't know again if you can see my cursor, but those up in the upper left-hand corner, there's 12 tables. Those are the rest of the teller tables are going up there. So you'll be close to the bar. Please do not get drunk, though maybe that will be more fun if in fact you are. There's probably going to be 4 screens, 4 projector screens rather than just 2. Down towards the bottom of the screen, this is the main entrance down at the bottom. The stage is up at the top. These 2 little squares here where it looks like little camera icons, that's where our live streaming will be at one and CNN will be at the other. And those are AV control desks or tables, whatever you'd like to call them, along the bottom. So this is a little bit different than we discussed last time, but it's rather than just looking at pictures, you are looking at an actual schematic. So Mike, did you have a question?
Couple of things. First one is right next to the head teller's table there. There's like a box, like a square. What is that? Just to its right.
I'm not sure. That might be a
Okay.
column. I think it's a column.
Maybe it's a bathroom.
And as an outhouse, yeah.
No, I believe it's a column.
Next question is, where are you and the parliamentarian going to be at on this?
Not sure yet. Probably
Okay.
to the left. So that it's
Okay, same here.
closest to you.
Okay, that's cool. I mean, I'm just trying to get a feel for what I'm staring at.
Yeah, we
Also,
haven't we haven't mapped out where everyone's sitting on stage yet. This was more for the AV company. We had to get this done. That and the run of show that they needed.
Okay. Also, there's this little mark on either side of the stage up
Yep.
top. What you know what those are?
Those are the projector screens.
Got it. Okay, cool.
They are going to be floor mounted rather than ceiling mounted because rigging is like 10 grand a piece.
Holy cow. Okay.
Yeah, so that's what those are. 1 second here. Jocelyn needed the link and she was on my list, so I don't know why she didn't get it, but I'm forwarding her the link. Because maybe she wasn't added to the teller group. I'll need to make sure that she's on the distribution list. So Allison, did you have further questions here?
Yeah, maybe I missed it, but the credentials around the corner.
That you might need to talk to the COC with or have Josh. I'm not so sure that's on the schematic yet.
Okay.
I made them aware of it, but I didn't do this outline.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I think we talked about it being around the ring, but I was curious where it was.
Yeah, there's going to be credentials up there somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. I was hoping
This
maybe
is all
nearby the
very
pillars.
easily. The
Yeah.
upper level's not quite as set in stone as the bottom. The bottom, we had to make sure we had enough seats for a maximum floor. Now, I'm not saying this to hex the convention or anything like that, but I've seen the delegate list come in as of you, and lots of states have not submitted full delegations. It's been my prediction from the very beginning that this is going to be, if I remember the numbers, a 775 to 850 person convention. That's always been my prediction. I do not think it's going to be 1,050 people, which means some of those areas on the side could get a little lopped off and maybe there'll be credentials on the actual floor. That remains to be seen. I would encourage someone from the credentials committee to request an invite, whether it be Josh, whether it be you, some representative, to the next COC meeting to discuss this. TJ Ferrara is the one with the mapping software that is doing all of this. Thank you. So that was one thing that got changed that I wanted you guys to know. So were there any questions about anything from last time? Anything we need to go over? I'm just answering Mr. Brown who's asking about bylaws. I'm like, not tonight, tellers meeting. Okay. If you think of something, you can always let me know. I want to see I want to remind everyone, if you are saying something in chat, I'm not seeing it. So just raise your hand because Zoom with the screens, and Jocelyn is coming in. Zoom with the 3 screens, it just hides all my windows. Everyone knows this in the bylaws meeting. It comes up a lot. So I want to look at I want to stop my share. I want to look at the attendees list and see how many people we have. We have 18. Okay, wonderful. Is there anyone here who is not volunteering to be a teller? Like, is there anyone who's just a observer?
Hudson's birthday tomorrow.
Jocelyn, if you could mute.
Oh.
Thank you. Okay, so it looks like out of the 18 people here includes me. So that puts it to 17. Let's minus Mike here for a second. And we'll figure out the best way to do this. This is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna share my screen again.
Hey, Karen Ann, it's Autumn. I can't raise my hand for some reason. I just want
Okay.
to tell you that we can see your cursor on the screen when you do that.
Okay, perfect. I never know if you can or not. So what we are going to do, and this again is the first time I've done it, so bear with me. What I have here is I have the states, I have some sample states broken down into 10 groups. And I have a chair race master teller sheet here with 4 candidates that received enough nominating petitions. So they are automatically printed on the ballots. And I'm using the allocated numbers. I want to make this smaller. Actually, I'm sorry. I know this is kind of really small, but it gets the screen. You can see much more of it. We're using the delegate allocations from last time. It's not the same as this time. So like I explained, I'm going to send to you guys, because I really encourage you to watch the last delegate chair training I did, where we went over the mechanics of the process, because that's where you guys and them interface. So as I explained to them, at the beginning of, let's say, the chair race round 1, because that will be the first balloted race, the delegation chairs will be called up to the head teller's desk, and he'll probably have someone that he'll ask to be an assistant there. Probably one of those of you who have done this before. I'm leaving that up to Mike. And you're going to pick up a delegation chair tally sheet, an envelope that will have the state on it. This is the fictional state of Ancapistan. And inside, this is a little different. So inside the envelope, we will have the number of index cards that equal their delegate allocation. Depending upon how smoothly things go in the interfacing between credentials and the teller team, we might actually just put in their envelope the number of actual delegates that have checked in. But if not, it'll at least be a maximum of the number they have allocated, and the index cards will be labeled. So these are labeled. This was the example I used for them. We're not using, but if you can kind of see, this says chair round 1, and they'll be in here. So they'll come and pick these up and go back to their delegations. Then they do their thing. And when they come back, their sheets will be filled out. We went over last time the way they have to calculate their ballots. Like if it's unintelligible, it counts as a ballot cast, but it doesn't get credited to a candidate, so on and so forth. They are going to have those laminated sheets at their desk. We're also going to have copies of that in case they have any questions. But for instance, if we go to teller group 1 here, these are just examples that you guys are going to be working with. Let's just pull up Arizona. This is a fictional filled out sheet. Of course, it doesn't have the delegation chair name and stuff on it because that's not important for us. Let me make this at 50%. But I have it as if it was filled out. Now, when they fill this out, they might write numbers like this, or they might put tick marks, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a bar for 5, because that's what the instructions say, but sometimes they put a number. So on this fictional Arizona chair round 1, vote for only 1 sheet, they filled it out with 10 votes for Jane Jones, 1 for Matthew Stevens, 1 for Donald Duck, and 1 for 3 small children in a trench coat, and 4 for Noda, with a total number of ballots of 20. If you go and look at the chair master sheet here for Arizona, they're allocated 27, so that's fine. They're under their allocation. If, for instance, though, and you guys will run into this because I did it on purpose on a couple of them, if you add up their votes here and it didn't add up to 20, you're going to call that delegation chair back and have them recount their ballots. We don't recount their ballots. We only go off the teller's tally sheet. We do not touch their ballots. They bring their ballots back up only for an after convention audit. We do not touch the ballots that are in the envelope. If we have a problem with their sheet, we call them back up and hand them their package back and ask them to fix it. We do not fix it. Just to make that clear. So what we are going to do today, and this is where you're going to mess up and ask questions, is I'm going to assign groups of you. I'm going to give you a tiny URL to one of the 10 teller groups that we have here. One of these groups has DC in it. So there's 5 states in each group, except for one has 6 that has DC in it. I forgot which one I stuck DC in. And I'm going to give you the tiny URL for this chair master sheet. And the 2 of you or whoever's working on it, you're going to pull up the states that are in your folder, and you're going to go to this chair master sheet. Let's do Arizona as an example, since we had that up. It was 10 for Jane Jones. You won't be going back and forth like this, but I am. 4 for Matthew Stevens. So if you were doing it, you would be going like this. Other people are going to be working on this same sheet at the same time, so you'll get distracted because you'll see other columns being filled out. And who else did we have? Now here's where you're going to have to do some judgment calls. If you know somebody's ineligible, such as Donald Duck, unless we happen to have a Donald Duck in the party, which we don't, and obviously 3 small children in a trench coat is not an eligible candidate. But let's pretend we had someone named Donald Duck in the party, but we don't. But let's pretend that we did. You would put them in as a write-in here. You put write-in Donald Duck, so that Donald is on any other ballots. People can just add to that column. You put 1, but ineligible is 3 small children in a trench coat. We used to type that out, and that just encouraged people to put ridiculous things as write-ins. We are not doing that anymore. We are putting them under ineligible. because it indicated a preference for an ineligible candidate. And 14 added up to 16. And I think I add, oh, there was Noda. There was also Noda. Hold on one second. And they had 4 for Noda. And the number at the bottom here added up, but you will also put at the top here the total number of ballots that they said they had, and those two numbers match, and they're less than the allocated. And that's really all there is to it. We don't put zeros in the columns where there's nothing. We just leave them blank. Now I'm going to blank these out. We're going to answer questions. I'm going to leave Donald Duck as a write-in here because we know he's on the Arizona ballot. So I think I saw first Christy.
I'm on a phone. Am I going to be able to do this from a phone?
Probably not. So
Okay.
we just listen to the questions, and it's yeah, and if you have any, just let me know. So I won't assign you. We're going to leave shared up on my screen the
Okay.
master sheet. So you could probably, when I give the tiny URL for the master sheet, you could probably observe it. But on your phone, you're not going to be able to enter in stuff. It won't work out.
All right.
Madam Chair, David Robertson, same problem as far as
Okay,
assignments. I
then we
apologize.
won't assign either of you. You'll just have to watch. And these tiny URLs will still be good after this meeting. If you guys want to go and play around after the meeting when you're taking a look at the recording. So Christy and David will not be assigned. Paul?
So since multiple people are working on different states at different times, column wise, you're good because those don't interact. But when you're adding write-ins, especially if the same write-in has votes from multiple delegations,
Mm-hmm.
what's the best practice to make sure that you're not stepping on each other's toes?
You'll see it. There is, it's communicating with each other. You all are sitting next to each other. There's going to be some times where you're both typing in the same thing. And sometimes those will need to be combined. Mike Seebeck will be monitoring this list. He'll come and talk to you guys. But it happens.
The biggest thing is just keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah, just really watch out. And remember, when we're in a live situation, after whoever the initial teller is that enters in the stuff, you will sign on the bottom where there's teller use only as who entered it, but someone else is going to double check it. So in case there was some kind of weird overwriting each other, there will be a double check of it. And I will also be monitoring the spreadsheet. The only one that I don't monitor is the secretary's race. I don't know those results until everyone else knows those results. Even though there's no rule against it, I just think that's best practice. But otherwise, I do monitor the spreadsheet as well and would alert Mike to any issues. Mike, did you have a question?
Yeah, someone's going to ask this, if not me, so I'm going to throw this out there. Write-ins who are technically eligible. We have, like, I know you have Donald Duck with the assumption that he is. How do we confirm that they're eligible?
If you don't know, you're going to stick them there because a write-in's not
Okay.
going to win.
Fair enough, but you know,
No,
don't wanna clutter
you're
them
just
up.
going
I
to
mean,
stick them there. If you don't know, you're going to stick it there. The ones that we're putting under ineligible are obviously things like Harambe, 3 small children in a trench coat. You know, don't put Mr. Tie-Dye behind Justin Amash while cussing, you know, crap like that. That's the obviously.
Tie-Dye is not running for anything anyway.
Yeah, or if someone puts down Donald Trump, we're not putting that on our screen. Obviously ineligible. Joe Biden, obviously ineligible. But here's the thing. If you're not sure, you can ask me. But say somebody puts RFK Jr. down. From what I understand, he is a sustaining member of the party. He's eligible. Now, he's not going to win, but I'm sure somebody's going to put him down. Someone's going to put down Ron Paul. He's a lifetime member of the party. Someone's probably going to put down Bill Weld. He's a lifetime member of the party. So if you're not sure, if it's not an obvious joke, you're going to put them down as a write-in.
For what it's worth, RFK announced 2 days ago he is not seeking our nomination.
Yeah, he's gone back and forth. I'm not getting into that. I can't talk about what I know or don't know.
I'm just going by the news report.
Yeah, I know. People are going to write him in. That's just, there's a whole group of libertarians for RFK Jr. He's going to get some write-in votes. Everybody, the usual suspects. Harambe is going to get some write-in votes. Ron Paul definitely is. Tom Woods definitely is. Dave Smith definitely is. There's some that we know are going to end up getting write-in votes. Steve.
So my question is, all right, so say you were doing earlier with Arizona and it's 7 votes short of the 27.
Yes.
But then someone goes, whoa, we have, 4 more people and they just turned their ballots, or like they just forgot to hand in their ballots or something like what happens in that kind of scenario?
That's the delegation chair's problem. When they turn in their thing, they're done. There's a very clear delineation between our roles and the delegation chair roles. Delegation management, collecting ballots, all of that stuff is not on us. That's on the delegation chair. And those delegates perhaps could move that, that the delegation chair be allowed to retrieve their sheet and correct it. That's going to be up to the floor. As far as we are concerned as tellers, once that sheet is turned in, it's done. I can tell you in the conventions that I've been in, I've never seen that happen. So we could probably come up with a bunch of potential problems, and watch, they'll all happen this convention after I'm telling you they're not. The biggest problem we had was one delegation chair, or the whole delegation, I don't know, dragging their feet last time. And we also had a problem with like hundreds of write-ins, which we will deal with if we have to, but there's a chance with a bylaws proposal that we might not even have write-ins. But we are going to deal with that as we're dealing with the rules as they are now. If you're wondering how an approval voting ballot would work, we're going to do that in a future training. We are also going to do, though I don't think, now that I've been thinking about it, that it will be any different on our end. There is a bylaws proposal that would get rid of regional representatives, add at-large representatives, and make them elected by cumulative voting. I actually think the formulas will be exactly the same as for at-large. I just need to do some dry runs, but we need to be prepared in case that bylaw passes. Dean.
For we teller volunteers that are also delegates, will our chair be running up to us to get our vote, or are we running back to the delegation to give it to the chair?
You will need to coordinate that with your delegation chair ahead of time. I can tell you I'm a Colorado delegate, and the way Colorado has worked it, even though I'm not a teller, but I'm up on the stage, is they usually have a runner bring a ballot up to me. I would expect that's the way that your delegation will probably work, but that's something you need to coordinate with your delegation chair. Because delegation management is completely in the hands of the delegation chair of each affiliate. Allison.
Yeah, just to answer Dean's question here too, from another perspective from Reno. So after we handed out all like the index cards for each of the vote rounds, I ran over to Pennsylvania and immediately went up to the delegation chair and just handed in my vote first thing. And even if they were in the middle of something else, they were well aware I was on teller teams. They just took it and basically at the top of the line, and I ran back. So
yeah, things are going to be a tiny bit different here, where we're not just handing out stacks of cards. The cards are going to be in the envelope, but if best laid plans, right? We might
Right.
end up still handing out stacks of cards. This is my plans. Each time I do try to improve the system. And just for you, the reference of you all, while this is printed on white paper, most of these sheets will not be on white paper. Say chair goes multiple rounds, each round will be on a different colored sheet of paper so that we're not accidentally counting the wrong round. The first round might be on white, but the others will be on different colors, and we've got all kinds of colored paper coming in. Now, if things are working out so smoothly with credentials, and we know how many credentialed delegates there might be another line here above allocated that will say credentialed, and that's the number we will be comparing to. That is a stretch goal that we've never achieved at any convention, because credentialing, no matter how great the credentialing committee is, gets hectic, but maybe that's a stretch goal we're going to reach this time. But if we don't, at least we need to make sure that they're not casting more votes than they have allocated. If, for instance, though, you get a teller sheet and there are more votes on there than they have allocated, we will call that delegation chair back. We will hand them their thing back and say, you need to recount. Mr. Seebeck.
Yeah, I just got one back question here. Judging from what you're telling us, we got envelopes pre-made with all the tally sheets on the first and the index cards for at least a couple of rounds. Do we have, will we have spare index cards and tally sheets available if it gets too crazy?
We're gonna have two decently speed printers up there, and I'll have forms already ready for a lot of rounds.
Okay.
I'll be prepared. Worst comes to worst, if it ends up like on 12 rounds, I ain't gonna be that prepared. We might be handwriting some things in, but I'll probably be prepared for 4 to 5 rounds for every position. Except for treasurer, because I don't even think anyone's declared for treasurer. That's usually not something that goes that many rounds. So we're now going to just do this little test so you guys can get familiar with it. Let me look at the participants list here. And I'm just going to get off of here for 1 second. I want to look up at my tinyURL account. So in order to get to the chair, to that map, that spreadsheet, please use this tinyURL. So it's tinyurl.com/tellerpractice. So on your computer, please pull that sheet up. You should have editing privileges. And now I am just going to assign some of these folders of Teller Group 1 through 10 to people as I'm looking on the list, with the exception of Mike, because if there are questions as you're going, I want you to ask them out loud, and I'd like Mike to answer them. If I disagree, he and I will come to an agreement here, because it's going to be Mike that you're asking, not me. Though, and Mike knows this, ultimately I'm responsible. So if Mike and I have different answers, we'll work it out. So I want to hear what he has to say to see if we have any kind of disagreements to work out. Because ultimately I am the one responsible. So I'm going to go through the first 10, and then first 10 people, and then if there's more people, just assign like a second person to some of them. So Allison.
Yeah, I can't seem to get on the link.
With the tiny, let me see if I can stick it in chat.
Yeah.
Where is it? Teller practice. So
I feel pretty confident from Reno, so.
It's this one right here. So let me copy the link. Let me see if my screen will let me pull up chat. So in chat, that should be the link to the spreadsheet.
Okay, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And so let me, let me pull this chat over here. So Allison, I am putting you with Teller Group 1, and I'll stick that link also in chat. So there's Teller Group 1.
Gotcha.
David can't do this because he's on a phone. Dean, I am putting you in Teller Group 2. And it's all the same link as Teller Group 1, just put a 2 at the end.
Yeah.
All of the URLs are the same except for it goes 1 through 10. But so for instance, this is Teller Group 2, but it all works the same way. Jocelyn, I'm putting you in Teller Group 3. John Thompson, Teller Group 4. Kate, were you still volunteering or are you just here to listen?
I'm still volunteering.
Okay, I got confused then. So you are Teller Group 4. I think there were 2 Kates. Christy, you're on a phone. Paul, you're Teller Group 5. Roman, you're Teller Group 6. Stephen, you're Teller Group 7. Steve Seacrest, you're Teller Group 8. Sylvia, you are Teller Group 9. Trendolin, you are Teller Group 10. Trevor, you're going to assist with Teller Group 1. Tyler, Teller Group 2. And Autumn, Teller Group 3. If 1, 2, and 3 finish early, I'll have you guys help with 4 through 7 who only have 1 person on them right now. So if you all could pull up those folders and get to work. And again, if you have questions, Stephen, ask your question.
It says I need access.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me go back to here because I might have messed up my share. Share restricted. Anyone with the link? Because I was doing this on the train. Okay, you should be able to get in now.
Yeah,
You were 7, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Anyone else? John?
Yeah, just a reminder, you put me in group 4 also, so there's 2 of us on 4.
Oh, okay. So it's 5 through 10. That doesn't. But whenever anyone finishes, we will, well, Buzz
I also
like
need access.
What group are you?
3.
Okay, this is me on the train being a dummy. Share.
And how do I look at the documents?
The spreadsheet?
I got the spreadsheet, but the information for the spreadsheet.
Thank you. I'm having the same problem.
Okay, what group are you?
3.
10.
You're in 10. Excuse me. Are you able to open that folder?
I don't know how to open the folder. I don't know where to go.
Okay, so if you, and I'm going to go through all these groups because it looks like it. So, if you look in chat, that is the link to Teller Group 10.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I'm
I
accidentally in that. Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'm changing these because apparently I was pretty sure I made it anyone with the link, but it looks like Google it didn't take it. So if anyone's having trouble getting in,
I got in.
Okay.
I'm good.
Looks like some of them were right and some of them were wrong. So I'm checking them all to make sure that everyone can get in. It looks like just a few of them But if anyone else can't get in, alert me, but I am double checking them all.
Hey, yeah, it's Autumn. I'm Teller Group 3 and I don't, okay. I mean,
You should be able to get in.
but with which link? I guess
Teller
type Teller Group 3. Got it.
Yep. It's the same tiny URL, just change the number at the end for your group. So it's https://tinyurl.com, Teller Group, no spaces, and then just put your number at the end. and I'm gonna put this spreadsheet, so you see how y'all are just, and if you need to add rows, the formulas should adjust. So if we have more write-ins, which we might, we can add a row.
Karen
Yes,
Ann, Kate Morgan says she needs access to group 4.
okay, let me look. Share.
That was in chat.
I got it.
Uh,
I got it. I got it once you said just change the number. Thank you.
Okay. But now you can all see, who can see my screen, how y'all are just working like busy little beavers.
So I assume one of the techniques we should use is I'm going to do Hawaii next. So I clicked on Hawaii so that people can see on my team can see I'm in the Hawaii column. Is that worth calling out as a
It
coping
is.
mechanism?
It is, because when you're looking at the master sheet, you should have some concept of where your specific cursor is at, and others can see that as well, which makes a difference.
Yeah.
And if you're not sure if it's yours or not, hover over it and it should tell you whose it is.
And
Right.
another technique that I should have told you guys, the first thing you probably should fill out is ballots cast as total, as said by the delegation chair. And then you put in your individual numbers and you can make sure those two numbers match. There are some sheets there that I on purpose added wrong.
Yeah, I just had that for California.
And that you will bring to the attention of Mike.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm
and
done.
Mike will then call up the delegation chair.
Yeah.
And they'll fix it.
Yeah.
So now just pretend like it's added correctly.
Yeah.
And same thing if somebody casts more ballots, then so just call it out if you're running into that. Stephen?
All right, so I'm fixing it. California just fixed it. Pretend.
Yep.
Group 1's done. Did you need another? This is.
Okay, is there any group that's running a little behind that Allison can jump in on?
I'm working through mine.
There's not enough space for Nick Sarwark and
Okay.
oh,
Yeah,
there
just
we go.
add a row.
Very good.
Yeah, just right click on it and add, insert one row either above or below. You should
Yeah,
take care of
and
it.
the formula should adjust. I am going to make sure. So it should go through 21. Well, now we're at 23. And it has adjusted.
It adjusts, yeah. That was just me checking it.
Report's done.
Okay, yeah, we'll just let everyone then work through the groups. If anyone needs help, call out, and some of the people who are done can jump in. I don't want to step on anyone's toes. So if anyone's just a little bit slower, don't worry about it, because some of them are a bit more complicated. Call out if you need help with your group.
Yeah, so I have a number for John Doe, a number for Jane Jones, and one for Matthew Stevens. Jody Walters is blank, and then there's a number 1 under it, and it doesn't apply to anything.
That's when you call the delegation chair up. So let's
Which state are you
pretend it's
talking
for the
about
one
here?
above it, now that you notice that that's a problem.
Which state was that?
New York.
Okay.
I did some of those things on purpose.
There's a number 1 that is the sheet 1 of 2. If you look, it's the page number.
I'm sorry?
So if you look at the sheets, the page number 1, page number 2, that's what shows up underneath the blank for Jody Waller.
I can't understand you. You got a really bad mic. You sound like an airline pilot.
So I have a state where they did not provide the total. It adds up to their correct allocation. would that be an instance where you go back, or
Yeah,
is it
we
just
do
just
not
go with it?
touch their sheet. If they didn't total it, we call them back up.
And it does need to be totaled.
It does need to be totaled.
Okay.
It needs to be totaled, it needs to be signed, if there's a signature page on there, or a sheet on there, and
Yeah, on the top.
it needs to be filled out completely, is what it comes down to.
Yeah, I remember at those instances, speaking for Autumn, we were sending extra tellers out to the delegate just to get it done quickly, as
Yeah.
opposed to waiting for people to show up. You know, because they could be at the bar or something and be like, let's go find this person, because not everyone was on a computer to keep it moving.
I have a question about Vermont. It looks like they say 3 ballots cast, but they have 3 for NODA and then 1 for each candidate.
Then
So
you
that's
call
a-
that state chair over and tell them to fix it. But for our example here, forget about the NODA. Let's say they
Okay.
came up and fixed it and they got rid of NODA.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
I did
South
that on
Carolina
purpose
has
for
4
y'all.
extra votes.
I'm sorry?
South Carolina has 4 extra votes. There's
You-
21 total votes, and the allocated votes is 17.
Okay, you'd call them up and
Mm-hmm.
let's pretend they fixed it in whatever way you want, because I don't have like totals. These were all just things I did on the fly. So you definitely would just call them up.
Okay.
Karen Ann, Colorado has put 30 votes down, but the delegation chair totaled it at 35. Do we call them up because
Yes.
their math is off?
Yes,
Yes.
because they could have been scribbling on a napkin and forgot to transfer 5 votes over to their
Okay.
tally sheet.
So how do you want us to tally this on our master teller sheet?
For right now, you're going to pretend that Colorado came up and said, oh, there's not 5 extra votes, and that chair will change it to 30.
Okay, so I should enter in 30 even though,
Yeah, because I introduced errors on the fly here just so you guys would notice. And
Yeah.
what you would do normally is not bring it to my attention, you'd bring it to Mike's attention, and he would handle getting the delegation chair up there or us going out to the delegation chair.
okay.
Yeah, you do want to do a cursory check to make sure that the tallies for whoever they have written down on their candidates match up with the total ballots. You know, just don't blindly key them in, but make sure that the numbers do add up.
Iowa
For the
has
most part, they usually
incorrectly
come out
totaled
right.
the ballot.
Yeah, like for Colorado, there was like 5 each for John and Jane Doe, 4 for Stevens, 5 each for those top 4, and then there was 5 extra for ineligible and NODA. That's
For
like
total.
30 right there.
But
They had
the
30.
sheet
So
says
if they
they've
missed
got
5,
35.
yeah, but if they missed 5, you know, but if they only have 30 delegates out of the 35 allocated, then you know they're okay. But if they
Right.
threw in say, 10 more for something they're over, then you gotta come back and say, guys, you're wrong.
So,
But
but on the tally sheet, I just wouldn't put at the top, I'll leave that blank while we wait for the delegation chair to come back with a corrected ballot, right?
That's a reasonable approach because it lets us know that that one is not completed.
Okay,
Correct.
okay.
Now, what I would also suggest for everybody, because we did this in Orlando and it worked pretty good, is that if you are in between tally sheets, pair up with somebody and verify what they've done. A double set of eyes is always a good thing. It's not calling into question anybody's integrity or accuracy. It's just, you know, we're making sure it's clean. And that will help make sure it'll accelerate getting things clean as quickly as possible, which will help us out.
And I'm going to correct something I said before, now that I'm seeing that some people did it. Pardon me, I drank that soda too fast. After you have gotten your numbers in for your state and your total ballots cast, it all adds up. On those extra lines, do put in zeros, because I think that will help people when this is getting broadcast across the screen. We didn't do that before, and people's eyes were jumping rows. So once you're done with your state, stick in zeros. And at the
Does that-
end, if some people add in or write in later, we might need to go back in and, add in a couple, zeros for states that we know are done. Mike, when he sees who's at convention, he'll assign the teams, and generally, it'll be however he does it, you do this state and then you immediately give it to someone else to check, and they give you what they did to check. That kind of organization, I'm leaving up to Mike to determine when we see who's there.
Well, to be fair, in Orlando, it was kind of I don't want to say a free for all, but it was, if somebody is open, grab one and work it, and then somebody else open, grab one and check it,
It's however you want
And
to
it was
do
it was
it.
a very free form, but it worked.
I do not know why that one has a weird text color. We are going to fix that right now.
I don't know
So
if
from the
else had the same issue as I do, but I see where the ballots actually tallied does not match the total votes in the formula.
Where?
Ohio. There are 39 votes, but total votes is at 10.
That's because nothing has been put here yet.
On Ohio?
Yeah, look, there's nothing in that column. The only thing that's been put in the column is 5 for Nanaconda and 5 for Noda. The rest hasn't been filled out.
There, I didn't move the
Okay.
Shouldn't Nanaconda
I see
be
it. Okay.
Then we got page 1. Yeah, there it is.
Wouldn't Nanaconda and Toad both be ineligible?
No, Toad is a literal candidate. That's his nickname. Nanaconda is Dustin Nana's nickname.
Oh,
And he's the chair of Ohio. So that's why.
all right. So is there some furry guy then?
A bird guy. You mean Donald Duck?
Some furry guy? You had some furry guy written in there?
That's me just that's me having fun with Keith Thompson because Louisiana likes doing furry memes.
Oh,
There is not really some furry guy. That would be like 3 small children in a trench coat.
that's where I put it.
Yeah. Keith and I just exchange furry jokes. If you're on
Okay, let me ask
Twitter,
you a question.
it would make sense.
in
Got a
the
question.
interest of, oh, sorry, go ahead with your question.
You had mentioned earlier about some people have had their eyes skip lines as they're scrolling across on these.
Yes.
Would it be an idea, and I'm not sure, I mean, it works for me when I do this, but would it be a good idea to stagger some shading on the lines a
not
little
doing
bit
that,
to
no.
stand out a little bit?
It fucks up in Google Sheets all the time. I'm not doing that.
That's fair.
So
Okay.
another point of understanding Google Sheets and when you've got multiple people working in it, Karen Ann, I just noticed some of the maybe lack of experience in some of the questions here. If you see somebody else editing, like heaven forbid somebody's writing in a column that you think you're supposed to be entering in, you can hover over the cursor and it will show you the username of the person who's editing in that column or in that cell. So it'll be easier for you to hone in on who you need to connect with to get on the same page.
Okay, with these laters, I don't know who has South Dakota, Tennessee. So I think I put 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So is whoever has teller group
Group
9.
Yeah.
Who was assigned 9?
Well, maybe nobody. I'm in 3 and I'm done and I was finishing
Yeah,
up
head
dinner,
on
but
over
I
to
can help
9
now.
because it looks
Will
like
do.
9's not really being done.
Why do we have a red box for ballots cast for Minnesota?
I'll go look.
Because they did not have it totaled. So I wanted to mark it as some kind of error. Go fix
Just
it.
leave it. No, we'll just leave it blank.
Okay.
And Because that if we leave the ballots cast blank, even though everything else is filled in, that indicates that there's an error to get fixed.
And I don't know why Google Sheets is formatting some of these, so as I see these errors, I'm fixing them.
Because Google's Google.
I copied this from last convention. Somebody might have alerted to something weird. And when they're all done, we will delete the unused lines that are there. Right now, it's 18, 19, and 20. Those might get filled in as we're doing some of these others. There might be more write-ins. But before we finally display, we will delete those blank lines.
I'll take Texas for anyone doing the group 9.
Is Wisconsin missing? Because that column's blank.
They're in group 10.
Okay.
I didn't, which one? Wisconsin?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, oops, I missed that one. Sorry.
And it looks like there are some formulas we're going to need to stick in.
Oh, Wisconsin. Oh, never mind. Never mind.
Mike, this will probably be you at the end for these lines that we added in. We are going to need to like look at the formula here where it's like B8 through AZ8. We are going to need to like to add here. Right. Okay.
Like that?
Yes.
We don't need to zero in the blank lines, folks.
Yeah, the blank lines you don't need to zero in because we're going to be deleting those. Only lines that have names on them.
No, I think we're gonna do pretty well with this. You know, hopefully we have a
As long
good-
as we have enough people, it goes fast. And as
Yeah.
long as the delegation
Yeah,
chairs.
it's just getting used to it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it was the same as like Reno. So like the biggest problem on Sunday was Virginia, and that was with them. And I was talking with Billy Pierce for some time last night about the Texas making the line out the door in the third round of the vice chair vote. But Saturday, and we talked out exactly what had gone wrong with Texas because he was the one in charge of the voting for that round, at least I guess for the whole time last time. That they had too many ballots coming in and not that many delegates on the floor, and they had to basically go through into a polling station.
Well, that in California was slow in Reno.
Isn't it
California was on point. It was Mimi. She was amazing, right? That was Mimi. She was amazing.
Yeah,
is
I
it-
don't think California was slow. It was
Yeah,
Virginia.
she's always good. It was Virginia.
Well, both California and Virginia had severe cases of write-in cramp.
Yeah, but Mimi was fast about it.
Yeah.
New York under Jody doesn't have anything.
Mm.
I don't see how we would be overlapping with each other because as the delegation chairs bring up their sheet, one teller will be working one sheet, one state at a time. There won't be two tellers working the same state, right?
Sometimes you fuck up your cursor by accident.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
The
so
new-
you might click on the wrong cell. Yeah.
The New York that doesn't have anything in it, that used to be a red 0.
That's missing Jody Walters' entry. There we go.
So let's see how we're doing. Is anyone still working? Because it looks
Minnesota is missing its ballots cast.
Who is?
Minnesota.
Okay, and yeah, there's some missing
Colorado.
controls, but we're gonna pretend like they fixed it.
Okay.
So, we're gonna pretend like Colorado fixed theirs to 30, so I'm putting 30 there. And whatever
California
issue we
fixed
had with Minnesota, we're gonna pretend like that was fixed. They came up, they fixed it.
Karen Ann, I have a question. And again, I'd raise my hand, but I don't know why
Oh,
I
I'm
can't.
sorry, I didn't see it.
Oh, I know I can't raise it. So
Oh,
anyway,
okay.
yeah, so I'm just being a bore. Or a bull in a china shop. So one bit of feedback about the way the sheet functions.
Uh-huh.
Those yellow rows that you have as just the spacers, because it's a merged cell,
Yes.
I find when I space down to go to the next, to enter in the next row of the column, if I'm over to the right of the sheet, it bumps me back when I move through that merged.
It does. And that's
Yeah.
just something everyone needs to be aware of.
Okay. Yeah, I can adjust my habits and use
Yeah,
my
everyone
my
needs-
pointer.
Yeah. Those yellow lines are big merge cells. So when you're doing your total, it's better not to tab down. It's better to just stick your cursor down. And then only tab down when you're in the ones without those lines.
Yeah, it's really easy to get into the habit of just like arrowing down and then all of a sudden the page jumps and you realize you're off in some other state. So just keep looking up. Take your time.
So is anyone still working? Hey, Mike, if you want to delete those empty rows,
Certainly.
and we'll take a look at what we got going on here. Okay. So what Mike will do at the end before he tells me that it's good to go, and I'll be doing this as well, is looking at row 3 in this case and 22 to make sure they match, and then looking at 22 and 25 to make sure that no amount of 22 is greater than what is in happens to be in 25. And it looks like somebody's put like a weird XX in there. I just took care of that. And we do have an issue here, Mike. Is this a formula issue?
Where are you looking?
Total votes. Up here, total 1,008. Down here, total 1,002.
Oh, I see. Okay. I was like, what? Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, because that's interesting.
This happens every time, and we always have to figure it out. Now it's 1,011 at the bottom.
Which jives with the full column. Okay, that looks right. I'm just walking through each one of these to
Yep.
make sure the formulas match. And the formulas look all good for the totals.
It's Vermont. Sorry, I was on mute. Vermont has
Was
3
Vermont-
ballots cast at the
Yep,
top.
it's Vermont.
At 6, and there's 3 notas and somehow 3 votes per people.
Ah, there's a problem.
Yep. Sorry, I was saying
Just
that for
change
like
it
a
to
minute.
6 to,
I
to
realized I
just,
was muted.
yeah.
Oh,
Well,
yeah,
we
that was the
probably-
one that was messed up. Yeah.
Yeah, let's just leave it. So that's the type
Wait a
of,
second though. Wait a second. Vermont was only allocated 3 and they got 6 votes.
okay, well then get rid of their nota and make it 3.
Okay.
Okay, so there's all kinds of double checks in here to keep things like that from happening. So we've got our totals, they match, they should, and again, we always check this for formulas, they should propagate out over here, and we're going to need to fix this somehow because our write-ins aren't all on here, Mike.
Okay.
So what we're probably going to have to do on the master sheet is add extra lines that we'll end up having to delete.
You have rows there. Rows 10 through 15 look like they're hidden.
Oh, how'd that happen? Oh, here we go. There we go.
Is it worth saying that in real
Still
life,
missing some lines there
Where?
on the right end.
3 more write-in lines.
Yeah, we'll have to work on that.
Yeah.
And that might be something you're going to need to do on the fly, Mike.
Uh-huh.
Of course, they're not going to win, but before we display it, this is like the final cleanup we need to do. But let's just pretend like it's correct. in this case, no one got anywhere near 50%. So the candidate with the lowest number of votes will be dropped, which would be Jody. And we would go on to round 2 without Jody. And we keep going until somebody got over 50%.
So is it worth saying for everyone's clarification that in real life with that state that had an error, we wouldn't have just fixed it. We would have pulled the ballot or their submission to see if it was an entry error and if we had to send it back. Okay.
Yeah, or if we had to send it back, if it was us a typo error or whether it was the state chair had an error.
Yeah, I just figured worth saying for first timers.
Yes.
Yep.
But, oh, that's because we're missing some lines. That's why that didn't add up to 100%. When we have all the lines there, that would add up to 100%. So that's pretty much it for the vote for one. You'll be old hands at it in this particular race. Somebody probably wasn't going to get 50% till rounds 2 or 3, probably. So by the time we got to round 3, you'd be an old hand at it. So we are at an hour, and that's really what I'm trying to keep it at. I will be scheduling a third one in which we will do a multi-winner ballot, which is at large. That's the only one that's a multi-winner one. So I will set up some at-large sheets, and I'm going to determine in my own head whether cumulative voting would be any different. And I don't think, Mike, you think about this too. I don't think any of the formulas would change for cumulative voting.
If anything, what will change, I don't think they will either. But the problem is this: if the ballots cast for cumulative would be higher than a number of allocated delegates, how's that going to play out?
Cumulative.
Unless I'm misunderstanding.
Let's deal with that next time. I don't want to, or you and I will deal.
Sure.
I don't want to confuse everybody.
Yeah.
We'll deal with that offline.
That's right. We'll talk about-
Usually the total votes is usually divisible, can be divisible by the number of delegates or votes cast.
We're not
Not
getting
necessarily.
into multiple ones here because we will start confusing everyone, and I want everyone to be really, really clear on this vote for one. We will get into that confusing stuff the next one, but I want everyone to be comfortable with this. And just so you know, because sometimes I scroll too fast, and we want this to be the reveal screen, not this end part here. So I can tell you that before I display on the screen, what I usually do is either hide that column or block it out in case I accidentally scroll too far. We want each state to be looking at their totals, not trying to look at this total screen. This total screen is more for us, and this ends up being the reveal. But before we do the reveal, I would do this before the reveal, showing the candidate that got eliminated. Now, there are some bylaws changes that might impact who gets eliminated. Like if there might be a bylaw change that will disallow write-ins on subsequent ballots. You can only do write-ins on the first one. Who knows if any of that will pass? We will be prepared either way. Mike and I will be prepared and give you instructions on the fly. There'll be somewhat minor changes, but just so that you know, those are bylaws changes. And if I could put on my bylaws committee hat for a second, I'm sure Mike will back me up. Please vote for the ones that eliminate write-ins on subsequent ballots, because if I
Amen.
showed you, I'm sorry.
Amen.
Yeah, if I showed you what we went through in Reno, like literally, like the NAP was about to be suspended, and the tellers were going to go out with some machetes. We were going to choose violence. We were definitely going to choose violence that
I was
day.
telling Colorado because they were sitting right in front of us that we had started to unionize at this point. We're going on strike.
Yeah, I think we had to do it. Let me see. I forgot.
Colorado was tossing beers at me.
I forgot how we ended up. It got to be so bad. We had to put it like on separate sheets.
Yes, we did.
Where's 2022?
22. There you
Was it at large? Is that the one?
go. Yes, it was.
Okay, so let's go to these old sheets. I don't really remember how we did it, but I know if you look at the convention minutes, it gets really, really crazy.
It was either at large or JC, one of the two, because
It was the,
I
it
had
was the
to-
Virginia holdup.
Yeah.
I think it was at large.
I had to recuse on one of them because I was running for JC, so it might have been on that one.
I think there was an extra sheet we ended up
It was.
having,
There was.
yeah, having to do. So, hold on one second.
Karen Ann, has the teller training ended and you all
Yes.
sorting out the the spreadsheets
I'm sorry?
and you're just sorting out spreadsheets?
What do you, well, I was showing you guys just some things that can happen. So, I mean, the official portion, I haven't like stopped the recording because I think some of this is still can be informative, but if anyone has to take off, but I'm trying to figure out what happened. Which one had all of those write-ins? It'll be in the convention minutes.
Virginia.
Well, it wasn't the state. It was what race.
It was definitely Sunday, and it was definitely. I thought it was at
I'm
large
going
because we
down
almost
to
went on
the-
strike after that.
I'm going to the
It
appendix.
might have been the JC, but it was
could have
either
been
at large or
JC,
JC, definitely.
Though, if it was JC, I think people were warned to stop doing it during at large because it delayed JC.
I vaguely remember because I wasn't in the pit for the JC tallies because I was running for a spot. But I remember one of the tellers mentioning that was driving nuts, and so they took the initiative to put them on a spare sheet. So I think it's a
Trying to
JC.
find where in the where's the spread, those weird ass spreadsheets I had to do for the minutes. Why am I not finding it? Appendix O. It must be more towards the beginning.
I mean, I think Karen Ann, your decision to make ineligible an option instead of summarizing every write-in
Yes.
is genius and
That's
will
good.
really help with what we're talking about now.
Yep, because then they're doing it just to see it on the screen. And to make
Okay, yeah, they are.
So once that's
And,
gone,
LNC, so page JC was 56, page 56, and LNC at large was 54. So let's go to page 50. Okay.
There we go.
Oh yeah, I did it. Here's how I did it. It wasn't, here's the write-ins. So it wasn't, here it is. It was Judicial Committee. Look at that.
122 write-ins for Virginia. Go, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
it's
is how I
Virginia.
had to do it for, because I couldn't even put it in a column. It was ridiculous.
And look at some of the names in that list.
We ended up
Randy
having to
Savage,
put
Luke
miscellaneous.
Skywalker.
Yeah, so we're taking care of that with the ineligible stuff, but this really was a nightmare. And again, it does encourage people to put the dumb stuff on the screen. Where's secretary? This is secretary. Was it?
I was right there.
It might have been the year before that had the 3 small children in a trench coat. But having people see that on the screen, it just encourages them to do it in a future round. We did have in Reno people using a real name but putting an obscenity in the middle of it, like Tom Bleepity Bleep Woods. We will just put Tom Woods on the screen. We are not giving people the satisfaction of insulting people in their write-ins. We're not doing that.
If Tom Woods changes legal name to Bleepin Woods, is that allowed?
Then that would be allowed, but this was not just a cuss word.
A question I do have though is just because I know you will scroll down and show the spreadsheet and state by state and whatnot. So what if there's a situation where, so you have a delegate chair and one of the delegates is of opposite, say, caucuses or whatnot that rival each other, and you have a situation where someone looks and goes, hey, wait a minute, I voted for Jane Jones and Matthew Stevens has all the votes for our state.
That happens. Because it happened in Orlando, but it was more because it was the electronic voting, which randomized the names, which weren't the same as they were on the screen. So some of the people were writing things on wrong lines. If, like, say, I'm just picking a state out of the blue because my eyes went right to Kentucky for some reason. And because that's a smaller delegation, they're like, no, we know that all of us voted for Jane or whatever it might be. The delegation chair comes up, and when there's a challenge like that, there's several ways to handle it. Our bylaw, we can look at this bylaw because it's important. We can either audit the ballots, or because it is a convention rule, the state delegation, if someone moves to invoke Rule 2, I think it is, the delegation gets polled by the secretary, kind of like a jury. The problem with that is they can change their vote. And that, in fact, happened in 2010 in the chair race. I want to get rid of that rule. If there's ever an audit, it should be on the ballots.
And it should be done at the state delegation first.
Yeah. So we'll deal with that. If it happens, someone has to actually invoke Rule 2. Otherwise, we're going off the ballots. But someone can invoke Rule 2, which, forces people to reveal how they voted, which kind of, in Colorado, we don't care because we don't have secret ballots, but we're the only state that doesn't have secret ballots. All right. Any further questions? Otherwise, I'm going to let y'all go and hit stop on the recording, and I'll shoot you all a link when this is uploaded.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And Christy and David, all of those tiny URLs will still work if you want to go play around. You can't fuck anything up because this was all just practice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Hey, Karen, stick around for a second.
Okay.
I'll show you something.
Thank you.
And I'm going to hit stop on the recording. And anyone who wants to stick around